Okay, so today we're going to be reacting to a request by. That's not the name of the video. It's a request by Multiversal Magic. I don't remember the name. I just remember Multiversal Magical Girls. I think that's the name of the person, but sorry if I butchered their name. Anyways, this is a short summary lore of Railroad the Watcher. Next time I'm gonna watch Downpour. That's that's what they wanted. Anyways, the Watcher was the one that the DLC that came out like a month ago. Anyways, let's not waste your time. Please like, subscribe, and let's start.
Ooh, spoiler warning. Look at that. I'm like warning you or something. Wow, there are spoilers in the video, by the way.
Okay.
Good evening, gamers, and... Wait, sorry, hold on. There's a bit of an error. Gosh, this is embarrassing. Let me just deal with this real quick. And... fixed. There you go. As I was saying, welcome to the first part of my video series summarizing the lore of the Watcher. Considering the lore we already have right now is so confusing and fragmented into so many different aspects, I've elected to split the lore up into two parts. This first video will be focusing on the main story and lore of the Watcher campaign, focusing on the actual events of the story and reveals we've gotten during the bulk of the campaign. The second episode will be focusing specifically on what we learn about the Ancients. To clarify, these videos will not be a full recap of Railroad lore as it pertains to the base game and Downpour. If you haven't caught up on that before finding this video, I'd recommend watching this video first so you can get a much better explanation of the whole setting before we dive into the really funky stuff. Anyways,
don't worry,
I've been hard at work developing an array of theories, so let me not waste any more time.
Figure out when I
So,
watch
beginning
the video.
off, what is the Watcher? Not the DLC, the Slugcat. The very first thing we see in the DLC is a cutscene, animated in the style of the original Survivor and Monk cutscenes. It showcases a young Watcher and his family getting attacked by another Slugcat. The family attempts to fight back, but isn't seen again while the Watcher merely hides, waiting as his family leaves him and never returns. The song that plays during this cutscene is called Childhood's End, so yeah, they dead as hell. This is an important narrative thread for the Watcher. He's called that for a reason. He watched his family die. Childhood trauma is a pretty important part of the Watcher as a whole, but I'll get back to that.
Okay.
After the cutscene, we get shunted into the actual gameplay of the Watcher. We start in a region called Hydroponics, which connects to Industrial Complex. As the Watcher continues towards Five Pebbles, as most people do on their Railroad runs, they find that the connection to the superstructures have been rotted away by a strange purplish strand of rot. And the echoes across the area have all been replaced with one strange giggling echo that seems unusually upbeat and energetic, asking if the Watcher poops? Okay. Anyways, they teleport the Watcher back to Hydroponics. Every time the Watcher meets that giggling echo again, who I will just call Spinning Top because that's their name in the files, more of the world begins to rot, getting covered in disgusting growths and dripping biomass. The second time the Watcher meets Spinning Top, they are given a gift, which is their unique gimmick, or well, one of their unique gimmicks. There's like 4, but the first one we get is the invisibility power we saw suggested in the trailers. The Watcher is able to do this new cool thing and hold a new keybind, something that is apparently foreign to the Downpour team, and go invisible to almost every creature in the game. Doing this seems to cause like a ripple-esque thing around them. I'm sure that's not going to come back anytime soon. The third and final time that the Watcher meets with Spinning Top, they shout and rave about how the world is teeth and claws and death all over, no matter where or when they go. The Watcher is then taken into a blue portal and dropped into the main map of the Watcher DLC. The Watcher's quote-unquote map is a bunch of individual regions. Each region could be placed anywhere in the world and at more or less any time, so that'll be fun to analyze. But the regions themselves are all connected via these things, large bluish portals that seem to act like cracks in reality. They're created not just by the Echo, but also just seem to be sitting around. These portals seem to have an effect on the Watcher as he passes through them. The game itself calls this form of travel crossing to new frontiers. The regions that the Watcher can travel to vary wildly between each other. There are psychedelic swamps, seaside caves, frigid snowfields, dusty deserts, and even rotted variants of a number of base game regions.
Oh, okay.
Weird. Either way, as the Watcher travels between the regions, they eventually end up meeting with Spinning Top more times, each time raising their karma level, or well, I say karma, it functions like karma, you lose it on death and gain it when you sleep. But I believe it's called a ripple level in the files, and the symbols are completely different. But as far as I'm aware, these symbols also don't show up anywhere else in the game, so I think they're exclusive to this HUD, and as far as I'm aware, don't really mean much. By the way, before we move on to the later events of the actual story, I should also clarify that I will be making a full exhaustive analysis of all the regions, their purposes, where they are in the timeline, and possibly what they show us, so don't worry about that, I'll get to it eventually. Anyways, as the Watcher moves around and gains more not karma from Spinning Top, they eventually begin to see their abilities shift and change.
One-hit kill
they begin to gain an aura around them passively, like a bluish distortion that affects the world around them, eventually activating the invisibility power will also cause the Watcher to briefly float. They also gain the ability to use karma flowers to create their own portals in the exact same way that Spinning Top seems to be able to do. Though, they should only ever use this with a karma flower. Who knows where they might end up otherwise. At this point, they will also begin to leave behind tears in the world whenever they use their power. These tears lead into a bluish realm, colloquially known as the Ripple Space. At Ripple Level 9, the Watcher delves entirely into Ripple Space. In Ripple Space, the entire world is tinted blue, creatures do not appear, and it is absolutely swarming with a blue form of Void Spawn. These Void Spawns seem to be creatures in their own right. They're described as stinging and hunt each other. They will also hunt you if you stay in Ripple Space too long, but they do it in a weird way where they just sort of like pass over you and make your screen go all weird. Ripple Space also
can you
lets
actually
see some other
die
stuff
from
too,
them?
the most notable of which are a new series of portals that lead to an interesting region. You can find them as well ripples that pulse outside of Ripple Space, but when you view them in Ripple Space, bam, full portal. Go through and you get taken to an area forebodingly named Damon, or Demon. We don't know shit about fuck when it comes to this area, but it plays the Ripple Space music, or at least a remix of it, consists of a series of floating islands. As far as I can tell, it is physically impossible to die here, and it leads to the most important areas in the DLC, Outer Rim and Shattered Terrace. We'll get to Outer Rim later, but now that we've unlocked Ripple Space, let's pay a visit to Shattered Terrace.
Shattered Terrace.
This area appears to be an ancient structure, similar to Cold Storage or Aether Ridge, though it appears to be suffering from a strange effect. This effect is also visible in other areas of the map, but it seems like reality here is shifting. Parts of the region are seemingly mixing with other parts of other regions, tying time and space together. We're not really sure if these phenomena
This
only
is the
occur
strongest
in whatever disconnected world
worm
the Watcher
slug,
seems to be in, or just all the time
Kind
everywhere,
of
but
remind me of a
considering no
character,
other
I don't
slug cat has
remember.
ever seen anything like this,
A
I'm
Marvel
going to assume it's
character.
specific to Watcher's predicament. On the right side of Shattered Terrace, there's a gap that Watcher has to use the float ability to get across, but upon doing so, they will find Spinning Top in a weird state. They look like they're not really there, but if you access Ripple Space, you can see them fully. Doing so will have them shout about how annoying the Void Spawn is to them before taking the Watcher to a new area, one known as Ancient Urban. This area is filled with small versions of the moths we see in Aether Ridge and Stormy Coast, among other areas, along with weird rats that the Watcher can tear apart with his bare hands and eat. Fucking metal, dude. The Watcher explores
Does
the
the
sewers
moths
before
kill
moving
you?
upwards and reaching the
don't.
workshop.
I actually
storefront of
deleted the
some
game
kind, with
because I want to
living
play
ancients
on the
moving around in
actual
the window.
Switch and
Spinning
stuff.
Top took us back
But I
far
did
enough
beat
that
the
the
game.
ancients are
I
still
did beat
alive in this area. We get a sense of scale that I will go into. Just trust me, I will dissect everything in this area in time,
I
but we
used
don't
the
have
yellow
time for it here.
on Survivor.
We meet with
and I
Spinning
beat
Top
it.
in their old room.
But I
They
didn't
revealed
play
that when they were ascended, they were just a
the
child.
yellow one.
Moving
Hunter,
up past
yeah.
that, we reach a functioning ancient
I
ascension
didn't play
temple,
that one.
the place where
I let
Spinning
it
Top
stay
and
until I want to play
innumerable
it so
others
you guys could see.
were supposed to reach their end. Spinning Top was forced to ascend, but they were just a kid. They didn't know better. They were just doing what they were told was good. They didn't want their end, but they were ended nonetheless, though, as we know, they did not truly end. They stayed, traveling across time and space, looking to see if anyone still remembered them or mourned them after they were gone. Unfortunately, they found nothing. Truly, what a cruel fate. All you can do is laugh. But they're done. Giving one final giggle, they vanish, going through what they described as a white door and properly ascending. You can't find them or any trace of them anywhere else. So that's kind of weird, right? So echoes can literally go anywhere in time. I mean, we kind of knew this. The Farmer Raised guy was talking about how he could go into the farthest reaches of the cosmos, but really likes his grass. But it's weird that we get proper confirmation of it. We know that the powers that Spinning Top gave the Watcher are ones that the echoes can already utilize. And it also seems like they aren't really stuck. They can just go whenever they want, but that doesn't really sound right. Is there like some wacky little story beat that you gotta achieve?
Maybe it's like ghosts.
That you need to do before you can properly
Maybe
ascend?
it's like ghosts, right?
It's kind of impossible to know.
When they need to like pass on,
the Watcher silently
they need a
back
reason
to
to.
old room after they vanish, and seemingly plays with their toys as the sun sets. Okay, so that was honestly fairly self-explanatory, except for some parts I will get to. But
is that where the game
now,
ends? He just start playing with toys?
I'll recap everything later.
I like that ending.
This brings us to the end of the main story, the first ending more accurately, the tale of a lost traumatized slugcat assisting a lost traumatized ancient as they both find peace. But hey, what if you didn't want to do that? What if you just wanted to go ape shit? What if you wanted to fucking lose it? What if you wanted to teleport without a karma flower? Well, doing so can take you to a variant of a base game region, be that garbage waste, industrial complex, drainage system, or outskirts. These rotted variants all contain a variety of interesting things, as well as portals in them. Though you can also sometimes find Spinning Top here, they say that these disgusting areas are, quote, too far out, though we don't know what that means. Apparently, after a point, everything is like this. Be that too far in the future or some other nebulous distance. How foreboding. We also learn what the rot smells like. Apparently it smells like dissolving proteins and spoiled meat. Very pertinent lore information. Thank you, Video Cult. Anyways, if we do actually go through the portals or talk to the Echo, every single portal in these infected regions will all take us to one place. A spot called Outer Rim.
Outer Rim.
Now, Outer Rim is weird. It's a huge, dusty wasteland, seemingly having overtaken ancient architecture. The walls here have similar patterns to the depths, though they also have weird pustules on them that seem dormant. In the distance, we can see the iconic green stars, always dotting Rainworld's sky, falling down to Earth and fading away.
Oh, I
if
see
we look
it.
at room names, we can even see some devices around
There
this area.
was one
called
above
star
the
catchers.
house. I think it's
Several
a house.
rooms here look like ancient cities, but several more look like iterator rooms. Could this be on top of an iterator can? That would explain why it's so barren and has so much ancient architecture on it, as well as the fact that some rooms appear to go even farther up, like the tall, odd buildings you can see dotting the cities. We can also see in the distance what appear to be cylindrical iterator cans, different from how we saw them on the wall. Traveling all the way to the left of this region, we reach an area called the Throne, a spot that looks terrifyingly similar to an iterator underhang at first, but leads up to an area that has been fully rotted. Not even 5 Pebbles was this bad.
Okay, so in this rainbow, does the rain still like
as we climb up, we eventually
fall
reach the top,
like really bad?
Past the karma symbols 6, 8,
Or
9, and 10.
can you
a
be
huge
safe
rot
if you
cyst
like
stares down at a karma
teleport
flower
away?
that we must
I'm
eat
not.
before moving back downwards, finding a newly opened tunnel that leads to a bed of karma flowers where we must make a portal. Okay, weird. But if you look at your map now after traveling to whatever region it takes you to, you can see that these regions are now outlined in purple. Come back even later, and we can see that the rot has spread between these regions, infecting them, just like we saw in the intro with those odd dripping growths. Rotten lizards, blue fruit, and popcorn plants are plentiful in these rotted regions, but if we return to Outer Rim, we can find that those pustules that were previously dormant now move and shift with a purple light. The Throne especially seems to be even more rotted, and the rot cyst at the top begins to speak to us as we travel through it, with a voice so profound it causes the watcher to convulse. It describes moving and breathing, finally attaining the joy of sentience, and opens yet another tunnel for us to infect the regions further. The third time we return, it speaks of how it can see
are
the tunnel
we
to
the
freedom,
infection?
how your presence is familiar.
Everywhere we go, we
somehow.
cause
The fourth time
death?
you return, well, something else has emerged. Greetings, friend. Oh, you've come. Please, be comfortable. Much time has passed since your last visit, and my kingdom grows. Oh, the things I have seen and tasted. This is the prince. He's a cool dude that seems intent on making the entirety of the regions we've found into a field of rot, to taste them and consume them. The more of these regions we infect, the more he tastes, the more his kingdom grows, and the more he learns. I am cataloging all things, you know. The imperative that was in them remains in me, but I'm not wholly them, and not blind to the folly of their forebears. I am something new. His form is
Does he
familiar.
want to
The
eat the
conduit
slug
arms sticking
cat?
out the wall,
Because he
the
eats them.
cloak of black filaments. Something is going on with him, and judging by what he just said, it sounds like he used to be an iterator, or at the very least has eaten the one that used to live inside this shell that is now
At some point, he's gonna
overgrown.
want to eat a slug cat.
But what's his goal in all this? In cataloging, in rotting?
Maybe he wants to become like the echoes. That's what they're called.
Imagine a single substrate. Life throughout all time. Nothing lost. No one lost. A living memory of all life. Forever. From bug to god, all is one, none above the other. A true end to the pattern. That is my vision.
He wants to make everyone a god.
You heard that right. The prince wants to end the cycle as a whole by turning all consciousnesses, every living thing, into rot, where the rot becomes the only living thing. This mimics a type of ascension, but is the complete opposite of the traditional void-based method. Think on it. The rot performs every single karmic sin at once. It fights and kills, reproduces unstoppably, cooperates with others of its kind, consumes everything it sees, and fights violently to stay alive at all costs, to turn into the most base form of life. That is an ascension that the Void would despise, and it seems the Prince knows this. As with all great deeds, my work is not without great challenge. It has taken eons, and the light fades. The paths close and change. I can almost feel a will at odds with my own.
Oh.
I have absolutely no doubt that this will he's describing is in some way, shape, or form the Void, or at least something adjacent to it. The Great Cycle
I don't know
itself,
what the Void
noticing
is, so
what
if I
he's
go
doing
back to the
somehow
other
and
video, they
disliking
explain
it.
that. I might know.
The Prince in general is weird. He's jovial and friendly, welcoming you to his kingdom if you die to the rot next to him, viewing any attacks against him as play, any physical objects as sundries to be consumed. He's childish, a prince as opposed to a king, someone who was just barely born, a childish veracity for knowledge that is destroying everything. Though that won't be allowed to continue. No matter how much you like the prince or want him to succeed in his grand rot plan, you are not the one in control here. After rotting at least 17 regions, returning to the prince will have karma flowers growing all over the throne, a similar presence that also causes the Watcher to convulse in the same way that it was whenever the Rotsis was talking to him. Something is doing this. As you move up towards the prince, he's paralyzed, stuck, staring up at the sky, as karma flowers bloom from his face, and we watch as the entirety of his kingdom, the fields of rot that he made, are all consumed by karma flowers. The Watcher, doing as his name suggests, and merely staring downwards from the tallest peak of the throne as all this unfolds, returning to the world after this, shows the prince still paralyzed, as the wiki says, not dead, he is still moving. After getting this ending, the entirety of the rot we've spread is now blooming with karma flowers, even the main menu screen. So, what the fuck? Well, it's of my opinion that there is more to this ending that we haven't yet seen.
Maybe that's
we know updates
what
are coming,
the
and this feels kind of
karma flowers
like,
were
there was
in the
more we
first
have yet
place.
to
They
see.
are rots.
But, going off what we have,
But
I think that the prince was attempting to enact a grand plan to pseudo-ascend everything. His goal was to end the pattern, to free them all from the Great Cycle.
I'm gonna
Great
say my
Cycle, or
theory
the
at the
Void, or
end.
whatever controls the karma flowers, didn't like this, and decided to either forcefully ascend the entirety of the rot, or just paralyze them by growing karma flowers out of them. The karma flowers in general have been weird. We remember from the base game lore that they're psychedelic drugs that allow the ancients to view alternate realities, to connect and contact alternate selves. But they're so linked to the cycle intrinsically, they sport Karma 10, then are made out of strange filament-like glowing plant fibers seen literally nowhere else. They sprout out of nowhere, seemingly at random, growing from the place where you died in a completely different cycle to the one you're currently in. But now they're more than that. They evidently allow for proper transportation around the areas, facilitating portals to be permanently opened between different whens and wheres, the same power that the echoes have been shown to use. If a karma flower grew from all over the rot, that must mean it was killed while affected with one, the same way it grows from us if we die. Or it could mean something else entirely. We have no idea. Either way, we know that something is really, really, really weird with karma flowers, and there's very likely something else out there that controls them completely and can use them to halt the spread of the rot somehow. Either that, or the karma flowers that we see growing from the bundles of the rot are a symptom of something that the prince is doing, and he just went too far. And there's actually not a secondary will, or if there is, it's
maybe
something else
void.
Weird, like the remnants of the iterator he consumed. Well, that was a lot of somehows. Can you tell we don't really know a lot about this? But let's move towards more concrete knowledge. The Watcher is a story of a slugcat who was traumatized at a young age, having lost their family while all they could do was watch. They are then found by a strange Echo who was also a child, having gone mad after eternities of wandering, looking for meaning. They now merely laugh at the simplicities of the Watcher's life as a member of an aggressive ecosystem full of predators. This Echo, spinning top, then takes the Watcher all over the world, to different places in all sorts of different times, meeting with them over and over again and granting the Watcher the gifts it needs to transport on its own, eventually getting enough gifts from Spinning Top to meet them in Ripple Space and help them finally fully ascend. Though the gifting of these powers also opens up the world to a dangerous entity, a naive consciousness likely born from the rot consuming an iterator completely. The Prince seeks to consume everything. With the help of the Watcher's portals, he's able to do so, tasting and learning and growing before eventually being halted by an outside force, leaving the Watcher once again alone.
So basically, he traumatized the Watcher again.
Childhood innocence and childhood trauma. Think
he
of our
made
three main
two
characters.
friends.
The Watcher is, as mentioned, a child that was traumatized.
He made two friends, and one of them went away, and the other one
of it watching its family
and
every other slugcat all enter into the same
it's still alive.
Sequence we see at the end of the base game, with it
He
being
basically
behind.
became a vegetable.
And the second sequence showing it emerging from deep underwater onto its
even if
the Watcher is / was a child that was left behind by the world, all of its kind. We don't actually know if this is after all the slugcats ascended, or if this is some other weird thing. But both these dream sequences seem to be more accurately actual dreams, as opposed to the memories that we saw in base game Rainworld and Downport. So I don't think that they mean concretely that the Watcher watched every single member of its species ascend and just was left behind. I think that's more of a way of it dreaming that it was left behind by its kind, because that's how it feels. But the second dream sequence is almost certainly just a weird dream about being lost in this strange land and feeling alone. Either way, this paints a really good picture of a slugcat who feels alone and lost and can do nothing but watch as things get worse. Spinning Top, on the other hand, is also a child that was forced into a fate they couldn't have understood. Forced to ascend at such a young age, they transformed into an Echo. Lost in a search for meaning across everything, looking for proof that they mattered for any purpose at all, they eventually were reduced to nothing more than a giggling spectator watching the novelties of life unfold beneath them, the Watcher helping them rediscover those aspects of them and properly process them so that they can move on. On the other hand, we have the Prince, a newly born deity formed from a world that has seemingly been destroyed, coming from the remnants of an iterator that has been fully rotted. The Prince is not just the rot as a whole. It's a consciousness born from the consumption of another consciousness. Either that or a consciousness formed from something evolving. The Prince may control and embody the rot, but it is not the rot itself. It's something on top of it, a prince to the kingdom. Now, if the Prince has one motivation out of everything, I think it's freedom and complete understanding. The first thing we hear the prince say is about how desperately it wants to be free, to live free, to understand and learn, and it proves that that's still what it wants when it gains sentience. The naive mind of that childish god being put towards the most vile of purposes, it could not have understood the misery it was causing, but despite this, it continued to do it, and eventually, it too was left behind, stopped by something even greater. I'm certain we'll learn about that something even greater in a future update, but there's so much we haven't figured out yet. Like why the karma symbols are in the background of the throne, what the deal is with Outer Rim in general, why the stars are falling, what the pustules are, what spinning top meant by everything
what if the
is rotten
Outer
when
Rim
you go far enough,
were
what
like,
the fucking deal with Damon is. Oh yeah? And the rot void worm. I didn't mention that. There's a rot void worm.
Does that kill you?
Phew. What a video. Sorry this took me so long. The channel makeover did not help with the amount of work this video required. Speaking of which, all these gorgeous new channel assets were made by Splashpaws, a longtime artist that has helped out my channel a bunch. Thank you for all your hard work, Splash. Your free labor fuels my empire. But either way, I hope you all enjoyed. As mentioned, I have 2 more videos planned in the immediate future. One discussing the whole deal with Ancient Urban and what we've learned about the ancients from it, and another video discussing each new region in depth. There's a lot of cool information, and that video is going to take forever to come out, and then after that I have to do flora fauna again, so please leave a like and subscribe to my Patreon if you've got some spare cash lying around. It does help more than you know. Phew, well, that's all I guess. That's the whole video. I don't have anything else to continue to explain. Wait, no, seriously, what the fuck was that rot void worm? I need to know. James!
I enjoyed this. It was fun. Fun information. Okay. So, let's recap. A quick recap. The Watcher is a traumatized child that met a traumatized Echo that went mad. But doing so, he made a friend who passed on, leaving the Watcher behind. While the Watcher was alone, searching, looking for someone, he found the prince. Prince also died. The prince went paralyzed, and the Watcher is alone again. I don't know what's the ending. I think the ending is him playing with toys, being happy, I guess. But I don't know if that's the full ending, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and one day I'm gonna play the game, and all of us can enjoy together. That's all for today, and see you next time. Bye.